Hey everyone! Ready to dive deep into the world of My Love Will Make You Disappear? Released on March 26, 2025, this film has sparked endless discussions, and today, we're uncovering every thrilling detail. If you enjoy this deep dive, don't forget to hit that like button, it really helps us grow. And for more incredible movie explorations and hidden gems, subscribe to the channel. Now, let's unravel the magic behind this cinematic masterpiece. My Love Will Make You Disappear, released on March 26, 2025, was one of those rare films that almost instantly captured the attention of moviegoers. Its unique blend of romance, fantasy, and heartfelt emotion resonated deeply with audiences, making it a film worth exploring for anyone who appreciates more than just the typical rom-com. From the moment the credits rolled, the movie left its viewers thinking long after they had left the theater, sparking conversations across social media and beyond. The film seemed to do what many movies attempt but fail to achieve. It struck a balance between light-hearted comedy and deep emotional storytelling, making it feel both grounded and otherworldly all at once. What makes My Love Will Make You Disappear stand out in the vast landscape of romantic comedies is not just its storyline, though it is undeniably captivating, but the way it intertwines themes of love, loss, and healing in a way that feels fresh and relatable. It's not just a film about love at first sight or about two people falling into a predictable, fairy-tale romance. Instead, it's about the complexities of human relationships, about the fear of loving and being loved, about the mistakes and heartbreaks that shape us, and about the courage it takes to trust again when life has left you scarred. The plot follows Sari, a woman who believes she is cursed. Every man she falls for mysteriously disappears from her life, vanishing without a trace. At first glance, this might sound like a quirky, magical premise, and indeed, there's an element of the fantastical in this film. But the magic here isn't just about literal vanishing acts, it's about the way love can slip away when you least expect it, and the fear of being abandoned by those closest to you. Sari's curse, it turns out, is less about the supernatural and more about her emotional walls. She's been hurt before, and she's convinced that anyone she opens her heart to will eventually be lost to her, too. Chiu, in the role of Sari, delivers a nuanced performance that perfectly captures the complexity of a woman torn between wanting love and being afraid of it. Her vulnerability is matched only by her strength, and as the film unfolds, you find yourself rooting for her to finally break free from her self-imposed isolation. Enter Jolo, played by the incredibly talented Paulo Avelino, a man with his own set of struggles. Jolo is a landlord of an apartment complex that's facing financial ruin, and is dealing with his own emotional baggage that he keeps carefully concealed. From the first interaction between Sari and Jolo, it's clear that there's something between them, something unspoken, something that feels like it could grow into more. Yet, as their story develops, you realize that neither character is ready to fully commit to what's blossoming between them. The tension between Sari's fear of losing another person and Jolo's own reluctance to invest in love makes for an emotional rollercoaster that keeps you hooked from beginning to end. Their dynamic is one of the film's biggest strengths, and the chemistry between Chiu and Avelino is palpable, adding a layer of authenticity to their evolving connection. The film's visuals are a treat as well, carefully crafted to reflect the magical realism that runs throughout the narrative. The use of color, lighting, and cinematography creates a dreamlike quality that underscores the fantastical elements of the story while still grounding it in reality. In particular, the scenes that highlight Sari's curse, the moments when men in her life disappear, are both visually stunning and haunting. The slow-motion shots of these disappearances, accompanied by an ethereal soundtrack, create an atmosphere that feels both surreal and deeply emotional. The film doesn't just tell you that love can slip away, it shows you in a way that leaves a lasting impression. But what truly elevates My Love Will Make You Disappear into the realm of something extraordinary is its exploration of what it means to heal and to trust again. Sari's journey is not about finding the right man to break her curse, it's about finding the strength within herself to face her fears and let go of the past. It's about learning that love doesn't just mean getting everything you want, it's about letting go of control and accepting that sometimes love is messy and complicated, and that's okay. The movie expertly weaves together these themes of self-discovery and emotional growth, making it a much more profound experience than the typical romantic comedy. The moments of humor are light and refreshing, but the heart of the film is in the emotional journey that both Sari and Jolo undergo. The film's cultural impact was almost immediate. Within days of its release, My Love Will Make You Disappear had become a conversation starter everywhere. It wasn't just the performances or the plot that had people talking, it was the way the film captured a universal fear, the fear of loving and losing, of being vulnerable in a world that sometimes feels like it will swallow you whole. The movie spoke to audiences on a deeply personal level, and its message about overcoming the past to embrace the future resonated with viewers of all ages. It became a social media sensation, with fans posting their thoughts, favorite moments, and even theories about the film's underlying meanings. Hashtags like #LoveDoesNotDisappear and #SariandJolo exploded, and the film quickly became a touchstone for anyone looking for a movie that wasn't just entertaining, but also transformative. Critics were quick to recognize the film's brilliance, praising not just the performances but the thoughtful way it addressed themes of trauma, healing, and emotional growth. It was a movie that didn't shy away from the complexities of love but instead embraced them, showing that real relationships are often messy, unpredictable, and full of bumps along the way. My Love Will Make You Disappear was hailed as a refreshing take on the rom-com genre, one that felt both contemporary and timeless, grounded in the real-world struggles of its characters while also tapping into the universal desire for connection and understanding. As the weeks went by, My Love Will Make You Disappear continued to captivate audiences worldwide. It wasn't just a box office hit, it became a cultural touchstone. People lined up for repeat viewings, not just to see the characters' journey unfold, but to immerse themselves in a world that felt both familiar and magical. The film's success wasn't just a fluke, it spoke to something deep within us all. It reminded us of the fragile nature of love, of the importance of facing our fears head-on, and of the power of opening our hearts to the possibility of something beautiful, even when we're scared. For those who have yet to experience it, My Love Will Make You Disappear is more than just a movie, it's an emotional experience. It's a film that challenges you to think about your own relationships, your own fears, and your own ability to heal and grow. It's a journey that isn't just about falling in love but about learning to love yourself first. It's a movie that will stay with you long after the credits roll, making you reflect on the power of connection and the courage it takes to let go of the past in order to embrace a new future. If you haven't yet had the chance to dive into My Love Will Make You Disappear, you're in for a treat. It's the kind of movie that lingers in your thoughts long after you've seen it, making you ponder the complexities of love, loss, and everything in between. Whether you're a fan of romantic comedies or simply someone who enjoys a good, emotional story, this film has something for everyone. It's a movie that will make you laugh, cry, and maybe even change the way you think about relationships. And in a world full of movies that come and go, My Love Will Make You Disappear is one that will undoubtedly stand the test of time. My Love Will Make You Disappear opens on a rainy evening in the bustling city of Manila, where we meet Sari, a woman whose heart is as closed off as the heavy curtains that block the outside world from her apartment. The scene is simple but poignant. Sari stands by her window, staring out at the city lights while an eerie feeling of melancholy hangs in the air. It's a striking introduction to her character, setting the tone for a story that will be as much about internal battles as external conflicts. Her face reflects years of heartbreak, her eyes filled with a kind of sadness that only someone who's suffered immense personal loss can understand. We quickly learn that Sari believes she is cursed. Each man she's ever loved has mysteriously vanished from her life, disappearing without a trace. This idea of a curse isn't presented in a fantastical sense at first. It's more like an emotional weight that Sari carries with her everywhere. She's a woman marked by a pattern of failed relationships, and the fear that she'll never be able to love without loss has created emotional walls around her heart. Her curse, as she sees it, is a barrier that prevents her from connecting with anyone on a deeper level, and her self-imposed isolation becomes one of the driving forces of the story. Sari's belief in the curse is not something she shares lightly with others, and she keeps it hidden from most people, brushing it off with humor and indifference. Her closest friend, though, is her cousin, who has known Sari's pain and struggles firsthand. The opening moments of the movie give us a glimpse of this dynamic, with her cousin encouraging Sari to be more open to the idea of finding love again. But Sari isn't convinced. She's too scared, too heartbroken, and too entrenched in the belief that love will inevitably end in sorrow. Into this world enters Jolo, a man who seems as far removed from Sari's quiet, self-contained existence as possible. Played by the charismatic Paulo Avelino, Jolo is a troubled landlord struggling to keep his apartment complex afloat. He's charming but clearly carrying the weight of personal failure, both in his professional life and in his romantic past. The complex he oversees is falling into disrepair, and its residents are beginning to complain. Jolo is the kind of guy who smiles through his troubles, yet his eyes betray his deep inner conflict. He's dealing with a broken relationship with his father, a failed marriage, and a life that hasn't turned out the way he envisioned. The first time Sari and Jolo meet is at her apartment, when she's forced to deal with an issue regarding the apartment complex she rents from him. The situation is a minor inconvenience at first, but it's the beginning of an unlikely connection between the two. Sari's cold demeanor clashes with Jolo's easygoing charm, and they quickly find themselves at odds. Sari is unreasonably harsh, convinced that her previous landlords were just as untrustworthy as everyone else in her life, while Jolo, though patient, is frustrated with her unwillingness to cooperate. This moment, though brief, lays the foundation for what will become a key dynamic between the two: Jolo's ability to break through Sari's emotional walls and challenge her beliefs, despite her resistance. As their interactions continue, it becomes clear that they both have their own ghosts to contend with. Sari's fear of abandonment and heartbreak drives her to push people away, and Jolo's avoidance of real emotional connections comes from his own painful past. Each time they interact, it feels like a tug-of-war between them, Sari resisting his advances and Jolo trying to break down her barriers. It's a beautifully subtle dance, one that reveals their vulnerabilities without making either of them overly sentimental. One of the pivotal moments in the first half occurs when Jolo, in an attempt to be more proactive about his apartment complex, invites Sari to a community meeting where the tenants are discussing their options for dealing with the building's financial struggles. Sari is reluctant at first, her trust in Jolo hanging by a thread, but she eventually agrees, largely out of necessity. This moment marks the beginning of a deeper connection between the two. As they spend more time together, the movie begins to cleverly weave in small moments of tension that hint at what's to come. Jolo is clearly interested in Sari, though he doesn't force the issue. He respects her boundaries but also gently pushes her to open up. Sari, on the other hand, is terrified of her feelings for him, so terrified, in fact, that she keeps finding ways to distance herself, to push him away before he can get too close. As Sari and Jolo work together to save the apartment complex, there's an underlying sense of inevitability between them. They may not know it yet, but their destinies are tied in a way that neither can deny. There's a chemistry between them that grows more palpable with each scene, a quiet connection that's not based on grand gestures or instant attraction, but on shared vulnerability. It's the kind of slow-burn romance that sneaks up on you, and by the time we reach the midpoint of the movie, the audience is invested in their relationship on a deep level. They're not perfect, and their flaws make them feel real. They're two people who are learning how to heal together, even if they don't fully realize it yet. In one particularly touching moment, Sari opens up to Jolo about her belief in the curse that has haunted her for years. She confesses that every man she's loved has disappeared, and she truly believes that this is a force beyond her control. It's a turning point for Sari, a moment where she admits her deepest fear to someone she's learning to trust. Jolo listens patiently, offering no easy solutions, but instead telling her that sometimes, the things we believe in are the things that hold us back the most. He doesn't try to dismiss her feelings, but he gently challenges the idea that love is something to fear. It's a powerful scene, not because of any dramatic revelation, but because of the quiet way it shows that healing is often a slow process, and it requires vulnerability and courage. This is where the film begins to set the stage for the deeper twists and turns that will come later. While the audience is still invested in the romance unfolding between Sari and Jolo, there are subtle hints that something isn't quite right. It's not just Sari's curse that threatens to tear them apart, it's also her inability to trust anyone, even Jolo, who seems to genuinely care for her. She begins to wonder if Jolo will be the next person to disappear from her life. In one unsettling scene, Sari dreams of Jolo walking away from her, disappearing in a swirl of fog. It's a moment that speaks volumes about the inner turmoil she's experiencing, and the fear that haunts her even in her sleep. The first half of the movie also introduces us to the colorful and eclectic cast of characters that inhabit the apartment complex. These tenants become more than just background characters, they play an important role in driving the narrative forward. Their collective struggle to save their homes mirrors the emotional battles that Sari and Jolo are facing in their personal lives. The community becomes a symbol of support, and their interactions with Sari and Jolo offer moments of humor and lightheartedness amidst the tension. They represent a world that Sari has been avoiding, a world that values connection, and one that she may have been running from for too long. By the time we reach the midpoint of the film, the stakes have been raised. Sari's fear of her curse is beginning to feel more like a self-fulfilling prophecy, and Jolo's presence in her life is both a source of comfort and a source of fear. The audience knows that something has to give, that either Sari will open her heart and face her fears, or she will push Jolo away before he can slip through her fingers like all the others. And it's this tension that drives the second half of the film, where the true test of their relationship will unfold. In these early moments, My Love Will Make You Disappear weaves a complex tapestry of emotions, filled with love, fear, and hope. The foundation for the twists to come is already in place, and each scene builds on the last, creating a growing sense of suspense. Sari's fear of her curse, Jolo's struggle to heal from his own past, and the subtle but powerful chemistry between the two characters create a rich narrative that leaves the viewer eagerly anticipating what will happen next. The first half of the film may be quiet, but its emotional depth is anything but. Every moment is a stepping stone toward the inevitable revelation of what lies ahead, and it's this careful build-up that makes the twists and turns of the second half all the more impactful. As My Love Will Make You Disappear transitions into its second half, the emotional stakes of the story heighten. The slow burn of the initial interactions between Sari and Jolo has reached a boiling point, and the film begins to build toward a series of revelations that will challenge everything we thought we knew about love, fate, and self-doubt. The tension between them, which has been simmering under the surface, is now palpable, and the movie leans into its central theme: the fight between fear and vulnerability, the choice to let love in despite the uncertainty it brings. The turning point begins as Sari's belief in her curse becomes more than just an emotional barrier. It starts to manifest in her everyday life in a way that seems almost too real to ignore. The unease that's been building in her throughout the first half transforms into a full-blown crisis. Jolo, still unaware of the depth of her fear, begins to grow frustrated. He wants to be there for her, but Sari's constant pushback and emotional distance create a wall he can't seem to break down. The deep, tender connection they've shared starts to feel more strained, and for the first time, Jolo questions whether this relationship is worth the emotional labor it requires. This is where the narrative deepens, and the film takes a darker turn. As Sari begins to notice strange occurrences, men from her past reappearing, disappearing from her life once more, each time with a slightly different twist, she starts to believe that maybe she's truly cursed after all. Her dreams become more vivid, often involving Jolo, in which he seems to fade from her life in the same eerie way the others had. These visions torment her and fuel her growing obsession with finding a way to break the curse. At this point, Sari's emotional state reaches a breaking point. Her fear and paranoia become her driving forces, and she isolates herself from Jolo entirely. She begins to spiral, caught in a self-destructive loop of believing that anyone she loves will eventually be taken away from her. Jolo, meanwhile, is dealing with his own unresolved issues. While he's increasingly frustrated by Sari's withdrawal, he can't help but feel that there's something deeper at play. It's a feeling he can't shake, and in the second half of the film, we see his emotional growth as well. He pushes aside his own baggage and digs deeper into Sari's past. One night, after Sari shuts him out once again, Jolo decides to investigate the origins of her curse, determined to find an explanation that doesn't involve the supernatural. What he uncovers is far more unsettling than he could have imagined. Jolo learns about Sari's childhood, a traumatic experience that links her deep-seated fear of abandonment with her father's sudden disappearance. Her father left without any warning, and the scar left by his abandonment became the foundation of her adult relationships. Each man she loved after that repeated the same pattern: they left. Sari's belief in the curse was not just a metaphor, it was a manifestation of her unresolved pain. It's this revelation that sets Jolo on the path to helping her confront her fears head-on, even if it means risking his own heart in the process. His willingness to understand the root of Sari's trauma is a turning point in the film, marking the shift from a romantic connection to a deeper emotional partnership. As Sari grapples with the weight of her fear, Jolo confronts her with what is discovered. This confrontation is one of the film's most emotionally charged moments. He doesn't accuse her of being irrational or crazy for believing in the curse. Instead, he gently points out that her emotional baggage has created a self-fulfilling prophecy. He doesn't try to fix her, he simply wants to be there for her. This act of understanding and compassion, in stark contrast to the emotional walls that have defined their relationship until now, begins to break through Sari's resistance. For the first time, she starts to see that maybe the curse isn't something that will forever define her. She can choose to let go of the past and step into a future that's filled with uncertainty, but also the possibility of love. The next major twist occurs when Sari, in an effort to test Jolo's commitment, stages her own emotional crisis. She stages her own disappearance, leaving a cryptic note behind and vanishing from Jolo's life without a trace. This shocking move is a dramatic reflection of her internal turmoil and fear of losing Jolo. But it also comes from a place of confusion. She wants to test him, to see if he'll search for her, if he'll care enough to fight for her, or if he'll disappear just like the others. This act of self-sabotage throws Jolo into a panic, and he desperately searches for her, eventually uncovering a trail of clues that leads him to her childhood home. The moment Jolo reaches her childhood home is one of the film's most powerful scenes. It's here that the past and present collide, where Sari's abandonment issues and Jolo's own fractured relationships come to the surface. In this place of memory and pain, Jolo confronts Sari with the truth: you don't have to be afraid anymore. You don't have to disappear. You can stay with me. It's a beautiful moment of vulnerability from both characters, Jolo finally shedding his emotional walls and Sari letting down the last of her defenses. The two finally embrace the deep, painful process of healing together. Jolo's love for Sari is no longer about trying to fix her or solve the problem of her curse. Instead, it's about accepting her flaws, her fears, and her pain, and choosing to stay with her despite the uncertainty. This climactic moment is not just the resolution of their personal struggles but also a catharsis for the audience. The curse that Sari believed would always haunt her is no longer an insurmountable obstacle. Through Jolo's support and her own willingness to confront the past, Sari is able to break free from the emotional prison she has been trapped in for so long. There is no grand magical solution, no supernatural force at play. Instead, it's the power of love, acceptance, and self-understanding that brings about the real transformation. The curse that haunted her was never a mystical force, it was an emotional scar, and it was only through confronting and processing it that she could finally heal. The film ends on a note of hope and emotional resolution. Sari and Jolo, now more connected than ever, return to the apartment complex, where they confront the challenges of building a future together. The complexities of life and love are far from solved, but the journey they've gone through has changed them both in profound ways. They may not have a perfect future ahead of them, but the film ends with a powerful message that love, when faced with fear and vulnerability, has the power to heal even the deepest wounds. In the final scenes, as the camera pulls away from the apartment complex where Sari and Jolo now live, we see the subtle shift in their relationship. It's no longer about waiting for the other person to disappear, it's about embracing the unknown, learning to love with all the messiness, imperfection, and beauty that real love brings. My Love Will Make You Disappear doesn't offer a simple, fairy tale resolution. Instead, it presents a realistic, heartwarming journey of personal growth and mutual healing. And in the end, the film leaves us with a deep sense of fulfillment, not because Sari and Jolo have overcome every obstacle, but because they've chosen to face those obstacles together. The curse no longer has the power to define them. They've broken free, together. In My Love Will Make You Disappear, the characters are more than mere players in a story, they are fully realized, complex individuals whose emotional journeys shape every twist and turn of the film. At the heart of this compelling narrative is Sari, a woman whose personal demons and scars lead her on a transformative journey toward healing and acceptance. Alongside her is Jolo, a man struggling with his own past but willing to risk everything to help Sari confront her fears. The interplay between these two central characters drives the emotional core of the film, but the supporting characters, each with their own distinct personalities and stories, are just as important, enriching the narrative and helping to bring the world of the film to life. Sari, portrayed with quiet intensity by a brilliant actress who effortlessly conveys both vulnerability and strength, is a character who instantly captures your attention. At the beginning of the film, Sari is closed off, emotionally isolated, and burdened by the weight of her past. The belief in her curse, her unshakable conviction that every man she loves will eventually disappear, defines her existence. Her motivations, at least in the early part of the film, are simple but all-consuming: self-preservation. She is driven by fear, by the overwhelming sense that if she allows herself to love again, she will lose it. This fear manifests in every interaction, every decision, and it's a source of tension between her and the people who care about her, particularly Jolo. What makes Sari such a compelling character is her emotional complexity. She is not defined by her fear. Instead, her fear becomes a lens through which she experiences the world. It's this internal struggle that gives her arc its depth. From the outset, the audience sees that Sari is someone who hides behind walls. She is prickly, distant, and reluctant to let anyone get close. There is a rawness to her performance that makes Sari's isolation feel painfully real. Her emotional walls aren't just a defense mechanism, they are a manifestation of her trauma, her belief that she is doomed to repeat the same cycle of loss. The film doesn't shy away from showing how deeply this affects her. Sari's attempts to distance herself from Jolo, despite the growing attraction between them, feel heartbreakingly real. She's terrified of repeating her past mistakes, of opening herself up only to be left behind once more. What's remarkable about Sari's arc is the slow unraveling of this emotional fortress she's built. It's a subtle process, one that doesn't rely on dramatic shifts or quick fixes. Instead, we watch as Sari grapples with the idea of love in a way that feels painfully authentic. Her fear isn't something that can be solved overnight, it's a journey of accepting her past, understanding that her worth isn't defined by the actions of those who left her, and learning that love isn't about avoiding pain, but embracing the uncertainty that comes with it. The performances elevate this transformation. Every flicker of hesitation, every moment of self-doubt, is conveyed with such nuance that Sari's evolution feels earned and deeply moving. Jolo, played by Paulo Avelino, is the film's emotional anchor. Like Sari, he is a man haunted by his past, specifically his strained relationship with his father and the dissolution of his own marriage. On the surface, Jolo may seem like the more laid-back, approachable character, but as we peel back the layers, we see that he, too, is dealing with emotional baggage. He's a man trying to rebuild his life, trying to find meaning in his work and his relationships. His motivations at the beginning of the film are focused on survival. He's struggling to keep his apartment complex afloat, and is emotionally withdrawn, unable to truly connect with anyone on a deeper level. He hides behind humor and charm, masking his own pain with the ease of someone who's accustomed to hiding. When Jolo meets Sari, he's immediately drawn to her, sensing that there is something beneath her cool exterior that he wants to uncover. His initial attempts to break through her walls are met with resistance, but he doesn't give up. His persistence is not driven by an ulterior motive, but by a genuine desire to understand her, to help her heal from the wounds of her past. Jolo's evolution over the course of the film is fascinating. At first, he's unsure of how to help Sari, unsure of how to navigate her complex emotional state. But as he begins to understand the depth of her fears, he slowly becomes the emotional anchor she needs. What makes Jolo's character so compelling is that he's not perfect, he's flawed, just like Sari, but is willing to take risks for her, to push through his own fears and uncertainties to help her confront her past. His arc is one of emotional maturity. He learns that love isn't about fixing someone, it's about showing up, accepting them as they are, and being there through the messiness of it all. A key moment in Jolo's arc comes when he confronts Sari about her curse. His decision to investigate her past, to understand the origins of her fears, shows his commitment to her. He doesn't shy away from the hard truths. Instead, he embraces them. This moment of emotional growth is one of the film's most powerful, as Jolo's transformation is marked not by a single act, but by his gradual understanding of what it means to love someone with all their flaws and baggage. The chemistry between Sari and Jolo is undeniable, but it's their emotional connection, built on mutual respect and understanding, that truly makes their relationship compelling. While Sari and Jolo are the heart of the film, the supporting characters play crucial roles in shaping the story and driving its themes forward. The residents of the apartment complex where Jolo and Sari's lives intersect provide a colorful backdrop to the emotional drama unfolding at its center. These characters are more than just secondary figures, they represent the community and connections that Sari has been avoiding. Through their interactions with Sari and Jolo, the audience sees how much potential there is for healing and growth when people choose to lean on each other rather than isolate themselves. There is the elderly couple who live in the apartment next to Sari's, constantly offering her tea and advice in their warm, gentle way. They embody the idea that love isn't just about romantic connections, it's about the little, everyday moments that make up a life. Their presence in the film offers a sense of balance, reminding Sari that not all relationships have to end in abandonment or pain. Then there's the single mother who lives on the ground floor, always rushing around, juggling work, parenting, and the challenges of life. She represents resilience and determination, qualities that resonate with Sari as she faces her own emotional challenges. The tenants of the building aren't just background noise, they are integral to the development of the central story, acting as mirrors to Sari and Jolo's emotional journeys. The landlord's assistant, who acts as a foil to Jolo's more empathetic nature, is another significant supporting character. His approach to life is more cynical, and his dealings with the tenants are often cold and detached. His presence in the film highlights the contrast between Jolo's genuine desire to connect with others and the emotional distance that Sari and Jolo both initially struggle with. Through him, the audience sees the impact of emotional walls and the consequences of isolation. In the final act, the importance of the supporting characters becomes clear. The tenants' collective struggle to save the apartment complex mirrors the internal battles faced by Sari and Jolo. The sense of community, of people coming together to face adversity, is something that Sari begins to understand and embrace. It's a theme that resonates deeply with her own personal growth, as she learns to trust others and to believe in the possibility of love, even when it's fraught with uncertainty. Ultimately, what makes the characters of My Love Will Make You Disappear unforgettable is the emotional depth with which they are portrayed. Sari's transformation from a woman haunted by the belief that she is cursed to one who learns to embrace love despite her fears is heart-wrenching and beautiful. Jolo's journey from emotional distance to emotional maturity provides the perfect counterpoint to Sari's arc, and their love story becomes a testament to the power of vulnerability and acceptance. The supporting characters enrich the film by reinforcing the themes of community, healing, and the importance of human connection. Together, these characters form a tapestry of emotions that makes My Love Will Make You Disappear a film that lingers in the heart long after the credits roll. Behind the glimmer of My Love Will Make You Disappear, there exists a fascinating, often unpredictable world of challenges, quirky moments, and behind-the-scenes decisions that shape the film into the captivating piece of art we now know. With its blend of supernatural tension, emotional drama, and tender romance, the movie wasn't just a product of careful planning. It was forged in the crucible of creative experimentation, production hurdles, and the cast and crew's willingness to embrace the unconventional. The journey to bring this story to life was not a smooth one. In fact, the production was plagued by some of the strangest and most unexpected challenges, which only added to the complexity of crafting a film that balanced both its atmospheric tension and emotional intimacy. One of the most notable aspects of My Love Will Make You Disappear is its setting, a decaying, almost surreal apartment complex where the narrative takes root. Filming took place in an actual, centuries-old building in a quieter part of Manila, an area known for its melancholic charm but also for the logistical nightmare that comes with shooting in such an aged structure. The apartment complex, with its narrow hallways, quirky architecture, and deteriorating walls, served as the perfect visual representation of Sari's emotional isolation. However, the reality of filming in such a space was far from ideal. The building had no air conditioning, making the already intense summer heat unbearable for the cast and crew. Temperatures soared to nearly 40 degrees Celsius (104 degrees Fahrenheit) inside the building, turning long shooting days into physical endurance tests. Despite the heat, the actors insisted on doing most of their scenes without any air conditioning to maintain the raw, unfiltered atmosphere of the film. The movie's director, an advocate for realism and immersion, encouraged this decision. It wasn't just a matter of comfort, it was about capturing the authenticity of the film's world. The set itself became a character in its own right, with the dilapidated building's creaks and echoes blending into the tension of the scenes. But filming under such difficult conditions came with its own set of bizarre moments. In one memorable instance, during a particularly heated scene where Sari and Jolo have a confrontation about the curse, the building's ancient electrical wiring short-circuited, plunging the entire set into darkness. The actors, already emotionally charged, were forced to continue the scene in total blackness, relying on their senses and instincts to guide them through the raw emotions of the moment. Rather than stopping to fix the issue, the director decided to embrace the blackout, using the absence of light to amplify the tension and confusion between the characters. The result was a scene that feels incredibly intimate and intense, as if the characters are stumbling through the darkness, both literally and emotionally. The scene, though born out of necessity, became one of the film's standout moments and is often cited as an example of the cast and crew's resourcefulness in the face of adversity. But the lighting wasn't the only obstacle. There was a period during production when the weather turned unexpectedly. While the film had originally been slated for a midsummer release, unpredictable rains delayed key sequences. In particular, a climactic scene that takes place on the apartment complex's rooftop, where Sari and Jolo confront the emotional ghosts of their past, had to be rescheduled multiple times due to monsoon-like conditions. These weather-related delays created a significant logistical challenge, as the roof had been specifically designed for the film's aesthetic and was only accessible via narrow scaffolding and steep staircases. Yet, rather than cancel or opt for a less ambitious location, the crew took advantage of the rain, incorporating the unpredictable weather into the narrative itself. The resulting scenes, where the rain becomes almost a character in its own right, lend the film an additional layer of symbolism. The storm not only represents the emotional turmoil of Sari and Jolo but also mirrors the cleansing and rebirth that comes with confronting one's past. If the weather caused headaches, the next production challenge was the infamous disappearing act. One of the most vital plot elements in My Love Will Make You Disappear is the question of whether the curse that haunts Sari is supernatural or psychological in nature. This thematic question was mirrored in the logistics of certain scenes, especially those where characters seemingly vanish without a trace. The special effects team, led by a young visionary, faced an uphill battle in making these moments of disappearance both believable and seamless. Early attempts at using CGI were met with frustration, as the effects often looked too artificial, distracting from the intimate, character-driven nature of the film. So, the creative team decided to go in an entirely different direction: practical effects. In one of the more unusual behind-the-scenes moments, the team employed a series of intricate camera tricks and hidden cuts to create the illusion of disappearance. During one pivotal scene, Sari fades out of view in a way that leaves the audience questioning what they've just seen. The effect was achieved with a combination of clever lighting, hidden trapdoors, and innovative camera angles. The actors were in on the secret, with precise timing and movement required to execute the disappearing act. In fact, the disappearing scene was so meticulously choreographed that it took weeks of rehearsals before the crew achieved the perfect shot. What made the sequence truly remarkable, however, wasn't the effect itself, it was the dedication and trust between the cast and crew. For example, during one of the rehearsals, Sari's actress, embodying the pain and fear of her character, became so emotionally absorbed in the moment that she almost fell into the trapdoor while trying to disappear. The team had to quickly scramble to make adjustments to ensure both the effect and the safety of the cast. This commitment to practical effects, combined with a deeply immersive performance, resulted in a moment that felt less like a special effect and more like an emotional unraveling. While these behind-the-scenes hurdles were challenging, they also provided opportunities for creativity. One of the most famous behind-the-scenes moments involves the cast's emotional commitment to their characters. It is said that the actors went to extreme lengths to live their roles, often staying in character between takes to maintain the emotional continuity of the scenes. This intense method acting approach, while incredibly effective on screen, led to some awkward and humorous moments off camera. For instance, one day during a particularly emotional scene in which Sari confronts her childhood trauma, the actress playing Sari was so consumed by her character's grief that she broke down between takes, even after the director called for a break. Rather than immediately rushing to comfort her, the rest of the cast stayed quiet, knowing the significance of the moment. The emotional tension was so palpable that it created an almost eerie atmosphere on set. For a while, no one dared to speak. These raw moments were not uncommon, and they speak to the dedication of the cast and crew to their craft. The director, who believed in the power of emotional truth in filmmaking, encouraged the cast to draw from their personal experiences, which made the film's relationships feel all the more authentic. However, this commitment didn't come without its fair share of controversy. Some critics of the film's production noted that the intense emotional commitment led to moments where the line between acting and reality became blurred. The extreme nature of the performances, while powerful, made some of the more vulnerable scenes feel almost too real, creating a sense of discomfort for both the audience and the filmmakers. Some early screenings of the film were met with mixed reactions, with viewers uncertain if they were watching a work of fiction or witnessing the unraveling of real emotions. This created a period of intense reflection for the creative team, who had to decide whether to tweak the performances to feel more polished or keep them raw and unrefined. Ultimately, the team decided to honor the authentic emotional journey, and in the final cut, those raw, uncomfortable moments are what make the film feel so visceral. Perhaps the strangest, and certainly most unexpected, moment in the production process involved the final scene, where the emotional resolution between Sari and Jolo takes place on the rooftop. Originally, the script called for a much grander, more cinematic resolution with sweeping visuals of the cityscape. But after weeks of filming, the filmmakers felt the scene needed to be pared down. Instead of sweeping shots of the city skyline, they focused solely on the intimacy between the characters. The final decision to strip away the grandeur and focus on a simple, emotionally raw moment between Sari and Jolo marked a turning point in the film's direction, shifting the focus from the external to the internal. This minimalist approach, however, was met with some resistance within the production team, who initially felt that a grander visual spectacle would be more fitting for the film's conclusion. In the end, the choice to stay grounded in the character's emotional reality was validated. The simplicity of the final scene added to its power, leaving audiences with a lingering sense of hope and catharsis. As the credits rolled, viewers weren't just reflecting on the beauty of the film's visuals, they were left grappling with the profound emotional journey they'd just experienced. My Love Will Make You Disappear is not just a movie, it's a testament to the unpredictability of filmmaking. From unexpected technical failures to emotional breakthroughs, from weather delays to last-minute creative decisions, the behind-the-scenes journey of this film proves that the making of a masterpiece is never linear. Every challenge, every unexpected twist, ultimately led to a final product that feels as raw and real as the emotions it captures. When My Love Will Make You Disappear first appeared on the big screen, it wasn't just the plot, performances, or emotional arcs that had viewers riveted. It was the film's unique blend of creative and technical innovation that set it apart from typical romantic dramas. From its stunning cinematography to the groundbreaking special effects that brought the story's supernatural elements to life, the film's technical achievements became just as integral to its identity as the characters and their journeys. The marriage of these technical choices with the emotional core of the film helped make it a visually stunning and narratively powerful experience. Behind the scenes, the filmmakers pushed boundaries, trying things that hadn't been done in this genre before, and it paid off in ways that left audiences in awe. One of the most distinctive features of My Love Will Make You Disappear was its visual storytelling, which seemed to breathe life into the setting, creating an almost ethereal connection between the environment and the emotional state of the characters. The film's director, known for his affinity for minimalism and intimate framing, chose to shoot the movie almost entirely in natural light. While this decision wasn't unheard of in arthouse films, it was a daring choice for a story with such supernatural undertones. The idea behind this was to capture the raw, authentic beauty of the character's surroundings while still maintaining a sense of unease and tension that permeated the entire film. Filming largely without artificial lighting created an aesthetic that was as much about atmosphere as it was about storytelling. Every scene felt like it was unfolding in real time, grounded in the mundane reality of the character's world. But it wasn't just about making things look more authentic, there was a deeper, more profound purpose to the approach. Shooting in natural light allowed the cinematographer to focus on the interplay between light and shadow, a visual representation of the psychological struggles Sari faces. Shadows became symbols of her fears and internal struggles, often creeping into the frame when she was confronted with the emotional ghosts of her past. The faint glow of light that bathed her in certain scenes represented fleeting moments of hope, showing that even in her darkest times, there was still a chance for redemption. The cinematography wasn't merely about creating beautiful images, it was about aligning the camera work with the story's themes. In one particularly striking scene, where Sari first begins to confront the emotional burden of her curse, the use of light and shadow heightens the tension. The shot slowly pans across her face as she wrestles with the realization that she might have to face the possibility of loving again. The soft light that falls on her face, contrasted with the deep shadows that loom behind her, creates a sense of impending doom but also a flicker of hope. The tension is palpable. This careful interplay of light, shadow, and framing wasn't something that could be achieved by simply relying on technical expertise alone. It required a collaborative effort between the director, the cinematographer, and the entire team to bring this emotional vision to life. A standout aspect of the film's technical design was its use of sound and music. Rather than relying on a traditional score, the filmmakers employed a sparse, minimalist sound design that added to the sense of disquiet that permeates the entire film. The decision to use silence as a dramatic device became one of the most effective tools in conveying the isolation and emotional turbulence Sari experiences. The silences were never empty. They were filled with the weight of her emotions, her anxieties, and her doubts. Every moment of quiet felt like a loaded pause, pregnant with possibility. But even within the silence, there were occasional bursts of sound that cut through, often linked to moments of emotional intensity. The sound design team used these bursts with incredible precision, strategically placing moments of noise that matched the psychological shifts occurring within the characters. In one scene, Sari hears a faint echo of a woman's voice calling her name. The disembodied sound, lingering just long enough to unsettle, acts as an auditory manifestation of her fear and the lingering presence of the people she has lost. These subtle sound cues, paired with the hauntingly sparse music, drew the audience into Sari's world, making them feel as if they were experiencing her emotional turmoil from the inside out. The most groundbreaking technical achievement in My Love Will Make You Disappear, however, was the way the supernatural element was handled. The film deals with the concept of a curse that causes Sari's lovers to vanish, but rather than relying on typical visual effects or CGI to create these supernatural moments, the filmmakers opted for practical, real-world techniques that created a unique blend of realism and otherworldliness. The visual representation of these disappearances became one of the most talked-about aspects of the film. At first glance, the effect might seem deceptively simple. A character gradually fades out of the frame, as if they are slowly being erased from existence. But in practice, achieving this effect was anything but simple. To create the disappearing effect, the special effects team used a combination of practical techniques like hidden trapdoors, mirrors, and camera trickery. The goal was to ensure that the disappearance felt both jarring and intimate, an extension of the emotional upheaval the character was experiencing. For example, when one of the key characters vanishes, the camera follows their movements as they seem to drift away, but the change is gradual. Rather than an instantaneous vanishing, the filmmakers drew out the moment, allowing the audience to feel the tension of the disappearance, much like how Sari experiences the loss of those she loves. What made this effect so special was how it blended seamlessly into the film's naturalistic style. Unlike many films that might have relied heavily on CGI to create the disappearing moments, My Love Will Make You Disappear grounded the supernatural in the real world, making the disappearances feel like extensions of the character's internal emotional states rather than something from a fantasy realm. It was this blend of the magical and the mundane that made the film's supernatural element feel both believable and deeply poignant. The idea that a person could literally fade away was not presented as a fantastical event but as a reflection of the deeper emotional scars that people carry with them. The filmmakers captured this through technical precision, making sure that every disappearing act was done practically, in camera, and with a deep emotional resonance. Another groundbreaking decision in the film's production involved its use of the apartment complex, which acted as a character in its own right. The building's decaying, almost haunted nature became an essential part of the film's narrative. Its crumbling walls, narrow hallways, and flickering lights mirrored the fractured states of the characters' psyches. Rather than just being a backdrop, the environment itself became a physical manifestation of the emotional struggles the characters faced. The apartment complex was chosen specifically because of its unique aesthetic, its old-world charm combined with the unmistakable signs of decay. It perfectly encapsulated the themes of loss, abandonment, and emotional erosion that permeated the film. To bring this setting to life, the production team faced some extraordinary challenges. The building had been largely abandoned before filming began, and several parts of the structure were deemed unsafe for the crew to work in. In fact, during an early set walkthrough, the director was so taken aback by the dilapidated state of the building that he nearly called off the location shoot altogether. However, after further exploration, the team decided to embrace the building's decay as part of the film's aesthetic. The director saw beauty in the ruin, feeling it spoke to the very essence of the characters' struggles. The crew worked tirelessly to restore certain areas of the building while maintaining the authenticity of its deteriorating condition. It was a delicate balancing act, but the team's dedication to capturing the setting in its most natural form paid off in spades. However, the complex also posed a significant technical challenge in terms of logistics. The narrow stairwells and tight spaces made setting up camera equipment a nightmare, especially when it came to capturing the more intimate moments between Sari and Jolo. The team had to get creative with their camera angles and framing, often using handheld cameras to move fluidly through the cramped spaces. This technique not only created a sense of intimacy but also heightened the emotional tension. The audience felt as though they were right there with the characters, moving through the confined space with them as they navigated their emotional landscapes. One of the more unexpected technical hurdles came when a sudden rainstorm flooded part of the set. The water pooled in the lower levels of the building, threatening to halt production. But the team took this challenge in stride, using the unexpected rain as an opportunity to capture some of the film's most visually striking moments. The flooded floors reflected the light in ways that perfectly mirrored the emotional turmoil of the characters. What was initially seen as a setback turned into one of the most hauntingly beautiful moments in the film, as the rising water became a metaphor for the mounting emotional pressure that Sari and Jolo faced. Ultimately, the technical achievements in My Love Will Make You Disappear were more than just flashy effects or clever camera work, they were integral to the film's emotional core. From the intimate use of natural light to the groundbreaking practical effects that made the supernatural feel real, the filmmakers embraced a hands-on approach to visual storytelling. The result was a film that felt raw, grounded, and deeply immersive, creating an unforgettable experience for audiences worldwide. Behind every technical decision was a desire to bring the emotional depth of the story to the forefront, an approach that proved to be as revolutionary as it was beautiful. The World of My Love Will Make You Disappear is one brimming with emotional depth, where each frame, each interaction, and every decision made by the characters reflects a greater exploration of love, loss, and the weight of human connection. As the film unfolds, it becomes apparent that it is more than just a supernatural tale about curses and disappearances. It is a layered meditation on the complexities of relationships, the haunting effect of unresolved trauma, and the universal struggle for identity in a world that often feels as though it is slipping away. The film is as much about the unspoken, invisible forces that govern human interaction as it is about the tangible events unfolding on screen. In the end, the supernatural element becomes a metaphor for something much deeper, something that resonates with viewers long after the credits roll. The most prominent theme in My Love Will Make You Disappear is the exploration of love's transformative power, both its potential to heal and its capacity to wound. At the center of the narrative is Sari, whose relationships with those she loves seem to disappear, much like the lingering traces of a fleeting dream. The curse that haunts her, which causes her lovers to vanish without a trace, can be seen as a symbol of love's impermanence, a reminder that even the most intense emotional connections can slip away into nothingness. In this way, the film grapples with the fragility of human bonds, particularly in the face of fear, guilt, and unresolved trauma. The idea of disappearing, whether it's a person, a memory, or an emotion, becomes a recurring motif throughout the film, representing the difficulty of truly knowing or holding on to someone. In a world where people are constantly changing, evolving, or escaping, there is a tension between the desire to hold on to love and the inevitability of loss. Sari's journey, in many ways, is about coming to terms with the fragility of her connections to others. Her search for understanding the curse is also an attempt to reconcile with her past relationships, each one leaving behind emotional imprints that she cannot escape. As the people she loves disappear, so does her sense of self, forcing her to question whether love is truly worth the pain it often causes. This tension between love and loss is mirrored in the film's visual design, where light and shadow serve as metaphors for the characters' emotional states. The cinematography, which often contrasts moments of illumination with deep, enveloping darkness, symbolizes the push and pull of love's presence and absence. The moments when Sari is bathed in soft light reflect her moments of tenderness and hope, while the heavy shadows that frequently obscure her figure serve as a manifestation of her emotional isolation and fear of abandonment. The way the physical space of the apartment complex envelops Sari, turning her into a ghost within her own life, amplifies this theme of disappearing, of being caught between the need for connection and the haunting pull of solitude. The supernatural curse, then, becomes not just a literal force but a reflection of Sari's psychological and emotional state. She is trapped in a cycle of love and loss, with every relationship marked by the potential for disappearance. The curse operates like an externalization of Sari's deepest fears, the fear of rejection, of being left behind, and of her inability to keep the people she loves close. And yet, the curse is not a punishment, it's a manifestation of the deep-seated emotional baggage that Sari carries with her. She is the one who, in many ways, causes her own heartbreak. The curse is her subconscious way of coping with her inability to let go of the past, with the people she's lost, and with the love she feels has slipped through her fingers. Another central theme explored in the film is the notion of identity, how it's shaped by relationships and how it can be eroded when those relationships disintegrate. Sari, throughout much of the film, is depicted as someone lost within herself, her sense of self disappearing along with her lovers. Each person who vanishes from her life leaves a hole in her identity, and with every disappearance, Sari's understanding of who she is becomes increasingly fragmented. This reflects the societal pressure on individuals to define themselves by their relationships, whether romantic, familial, or societal. When those relationships crumble, the individual is left searching for meaning, unsure of who they are without the people they've come to rely on. The curse, in this sense, represents a metaphorical commentary on how modern society often views people through the lens of their relationships rather than as whole individuals. The constant need to be connected, to be loved or to be desired, becomes an external force that defines who we are. Sari's struggle, therefore, is not just to understand why her lovers disappear but also to find herself again in the process. She has to unlearn the belief that her worth and her identity are tied solely to the love she gives and receives from others. Her journey becomes a search for self-empowerment, for the rediscovery of her own voice in a world that constantly tries to dictate who she should be. In many ways, Sari's transformation mirrors the societal expectations placed on women. In a world that often defines women by their relationships to others, whether as lovers, daughters, or mothers, Sari's journey is a commentary on how these expectations can diminish a woman's sense of self. The film explores the tension between love as an empowering force and love as something that can make a woman feel small, lost, or invisible. Sari's path to self-rediscovery is deeply tied to her ability to understand that her value does not depend on her ability to keep her lovers in her life. It is only when she learns to let go of the need to control others' affections that she can begin to heal and find peace within herself. On a broader scale, My Love Will Make You Disappear offers a sharp critique of societal and cultural norms surrounding relationships and love. The film is set against a backdrop of a city grappling with rapid urbanization, where traditional values of family and connection are increasingly at odds with the pressures of modernity. Sari's curse becomes an allegory for the way in which modern society seems to erode meaningful human connections. In a world that prioritizes transient, surface-level relationships, the deeper, more enduring forms of love are often lost or overlooked. The city in which Sari lives, symbolic in its blending of old-world charm with encroaching, faceless development, becomes a reflection of this cultural tension. The old ways of connection give way to a more fragmented, isolated existence. The film also delves into the pressures of familial expectations, particularly the weight placed on women to be emotionally available and supportive. Throughout the narrative, Sari is pulled in different directions by the demands of those around her. Yet the more she gives, the more she finds herself consumed, unable to hold on to anything substantial. This dynamic becomes a direct critique of the societal expectation that women should always be the caretakers, the emotional anchors in relationships, families, and communities. It asks whether a woman's role in society is to serve the needs of others, even at the cost of her own identity and emotional well-being. Cultural commentary aside, the film also explores the human experience of grief, memory, and the ghosts that linger in the spaces between people. Each disappearance in the film isn't just a physical vanishing but a metaphorical representation of how we carry the weight of past loves and losses with us. The ghosts of Sari's past lovers aren't merely apparitions, they are memories that cling to her, unrelenting, constantly reminding her of the ways she has failed or been failed by those she loved. The film's title, My Love Will Make You Disappear, carries a dual meaning. Love has the power to either erase or transform. The ultimate question the film asks is whether love can heal, or whether it is something that can only lead to more loss. The film also comments on the impermanence of human existence, emphasizing that no relationship, no matter how intense, lasts forever. The ephemeral nature of life is brought to the forefront with the curse, suggesting that love is not always about eternity. It's about living in the moment and appreciating the fleeting connections we make, even when they are destined to disappear. It challenges the notion that love must be permanent to be meaningful, suggesting instead that the briefest moments of genuine connection can be just as profound as lifelong bonds. In the end, My Love Will Make You Disappear is a profound exploration of love, loss, identity, and the societal expectations that shape our understanding of both. Through its evocative use of symbolism, its haunting exploration of the supernatural, and its deep dive into cultural and emotional landscapes, the film crafts a narrative that resonates on multiple levels. It speaks to the fragility of the human heart and the importance of self-rediscovery in a world that often asks us to lose ourselves in the service of others. Through Sari's journey, the film calls on all of us to ask, can love save us, or will it be the very thing that causes us to disappear? In My Love Will Make You Disappear, the visual style and cinematic techniques aren't just tools to tell a story, they are fundamental to the emotional experience, subtly reflecting the film's themes of love, loss, and identity. The director's approach to cinematography, editing, and sound design is deeply intertwined with the narrative, shaping the viewer's perception of the characters, their emotional struggles, and the world they inhabit. Each shot, each cut, and every sound carries a distinct weight, carefully constructed to enhance the themes and elevate the viewer's emotional journey. The decision to use particular stylistic choices speaks to a profound understanding of how visual storytelling can deeply connect with the audience's subconscious and guide them through the complex layers of the film. The film's cinematography, overseen by the director and his trusted team of visual artists, is a perfect blend of controlled minimalism and immersive, emotional realism. From the very first frame, it's clear that the visual style is grounded in a raw, intimate approach. There is a deliberate lack of excess in the framing, often opting for close-ups and medium shots that allow the audience to feel as if they're intruding on the private, often painful moments of the characters. These shots convey a sense of intimacy, drawing us in not only physically but emotionally. We are given access to the characters' inner worlds, each glance, gesture, and movement amplified by the close proximity of the camera. The effect is overwhelming, as if the camera is the silent witness to a world of unspoken emotions and unresolved tension. The cinematographer's use of natural light plays a crucial role in shaping the film's tone. Rather than relying on artificial lighting to enhance the drama, the film's visual style seeks to capture the rawness of the characters' experiences in a grounded, almost documentary-like manner. This reliance on natural lighting imbues the film with an authenticity that heightens the emotional resonance of each scene. It is as though the characters live within the real world, navigating their emotional struggles against the backdrop of a city that mirrors their turmoil. The gentle glow of sunlight filtering through a window or the shadowed corners of a room speak volumes about the characters' inner lives. At times, the light is almost suffocating in its warmth, but it is always fleeting, as if to remind the audience that nothing, not even love, lasts forever. The sunlight often highlights moments of hope or tenderness, while the shadows, which encroach ever so slowly upon the characters' spaces, mirror their emotional isolation. The manipulation of light and shadow is not just visually striking, it serves as a metaphor for the core conflict of the film. The contrast between light and darkness often signifies the emotional distance between the characters and their inability to connect with each other. At times, characters are half illuminated, with their faces partially obscured by shadows, representing the emotional masks they wear or the secrets they are trying to hide. This interplay between light and shadow creates a sense of tension, as if something vital is always just out of reach. It's in these subtle visual cues that the film's deeper themes of love and loss begin to surface. When Sari's face is bathed in light, it signifies moments of clarity and hope, but as shadows creep in around her, it's a reminder of her inner fear, her doubt, and her impending isolation. Perhaps the most striking aspect of the cinematography is how it mirrors the supernatural elements of the story. As the characters begin to experience the curse of disappearing lovers, the visual language shifts in subtle but significant ways. The use of space, camera movement, and composition are all manipulated to reflect the growing sense of unease. The absence of the lovers is often communicated through the gradual use of negative space in the frame. For instance, when a lover vanishes, the empty space left behind isn't immediately filled. The frame remains uncomfortably wide and sparse, drawing attention to the absence rather than the presence of the character. This visual technique amplifies the feeling of emptiness and abandonment that haunts the characters, especially Sari. As the disappearances progress, the camera work shifts to evoke a sense of vertigo, as if the ground beneath the character's feet is slipping away. Handheld camera movements are introduced during moments of emotional climax, giving the film a raw, unpolished feel that enhances the sense of disorientation. These shaky, unstable shots pull the viewer into the chaos of the moment, mimicking the mental and emotional unraveling of the characters. The camera never offers the audience a sense of calm or stability. There's always an undercurrent of unrest, even in the quietest of moments. This unsettled camera movement becomes a signature of the film's visual style, intensifying the emotional stakes and blurring the line between the physical and psychological worlds of the characters. Editing, too, plays a pivotal role in My Love Will Make You Disappear, further enhancing the tension that runs throughout the narrative. The pacing of the film is deliberately slow and deliberate, mirroring the way time seems to stretch in moments of intense emotion. The editing creates a rhythm that allows the viewer to breathe in the heaviness of each moment. There is an almost meditative quality to the pacing, with long, lingering takes that let emotions build in the subtext. Scenes aren't rushed. Instead, they allow time for reflection, for the audience to process the emotional undercurrents that are always simmering just beneath the surface. The transitions between scenes are often seamless, enhancing the sense of continuity between the characters' internal worlds and the external realities they face. There is a fluidity to the editing that speaks to the shifting nature of time and memory. One moment, a lover is present, and the next, they are gone. There is no abrupt jarring cut, but a subtle dissolve or fade, almost as though the disappearance is part of the natural flow of life. These transitions serve as visual metaphors for the passing of time and the impermanence of relationships, amplifying the central theme of loss. The editing subtly reinforces the curse. People vanish, not with the blaring force of dramatic effect, but in a way that feels inevitable, as though nothing is ever truly permanent. Another key element of the film is its sound design and music, which work in tandem with the cinematography and editing to elevate the emotional weight of the story. The soundscape is sparse and minimalistic, in keeping with the film's overall aesthetic. There are no sweeping orchestral scores or dramatic sound effects to heighten the tension. Instead, the sound design is intimate, grounded, and hauntingly subtle. The absence of sound becomes as powerful as its presence, with silence often serving as a potent emotional tool. The moments of quiet allow the emotional turmoil of the characters to fill the space, creating an atmosphere of unease that grows steadily more oppressive as the narrative progresses. When sound does appear, it is often jarring or intrusive, like the sudden ringing of a phone or the muffled sounds of footsteps echoing in the empty hallways of the apartment building. These auditory cues are carefully placed to punctuate the emotional shifts within the characters. They break the silence in a way that feels unnerving, as though reality itself is being disrupted. In scenes where the characters are grappling with the supernatural disappearances, the sound design takes on a more dissonant tone, with eerie whispers or distant echoes filling the soundtrack. These sounds are not intended to create traditional scares but to evoke a sense of otherworldliness, to remind the audience that the boundaries between the physical world and the emotional and supernatural realms are increasingly blurred. The film's sparse, minimalist score also plays an essential role in reinforcing the emotional depth of the story. Composed of sparse piano melodies, haunting strings, and subtle electronic textures, the music builds a mood that oscillates between melancholy and hope. The use of silence in conjunction with the occasional musical cue creates an emotional push-pull, echoing the central tension of the film, the desire for love and connection versus the inevitability of loss. The score is never overly dramatic. Instead, it allows the emotional weight of the story to unfold organically, drawing on the subtlety of the characters' internal struggles. The music also subtly reflects the cyclical nature of Sari's emotional journey. There are recurring motifs throughout the score that echo the central themes of the film. The gentle piano motif that reappears when Sari is faced with moments of vulnerability is at once beautiful and melancholic, signifying both the sweetness and the fragility of love. This motif is often paired with more dissonant, unresolved musical phrases, suggesting that even in moments of beauty, there is a sense of unease, as though the emotional resolution is always just beyond reach. The interplay between the harmonious and the dissonant in the score mirrors Sari's internal conflict, her desire for love and connection, always tempered by the fear of loss. In terms of stylistic choices, the director's vision shines through in his commitment to authenticity and emotional depth. Every visual element in the film, from the handheld camera work to the quiet, intimate moments between characters, serves to create a deeply immersive experience. The director doesn't rely on traditional cinematic techniques to force emotion onto the audience. Instead, he uses the visual and auditory tools at his disposal to create a world that feels lived in and real, one where the stakes are high not because of overt drama but because of the quiet, unspoken tension that runs beneath the surface. The film's stylistic choices speak to the director's vision of love not as a grand, sweeping force but as a series of quiet, fleeting moments, beautiful, heartbreaking, and ultimately ephemeral. The cinematography, editing, sound design, and music all work together to create an experience that is emotionally charged, atmospheric, and deeply reflective. They enhance the film's themes of impermanence, identity, and the cyclical nature of love and loss, ensuring that the viewer is not merely watching the story unfold but feeling it on an instinctive level. In My Love Will Make You Disappear, the film's visual storytelling is not just a medium for the plot, it is a language in itself, speaking volumes about the emotional and thematic depths the director seeks to explore. In My Love Will Make You Disappear, the interplay between cinematic techniques, visual storytelling, and auditory design forms the very backbone of the film's emotional and thematic impact. From its visual style to its sound design, each aspect of the film is intentionally crafted to guide the audience through a world that is both hauntingly beautiful and disturbingly isolating. The film doesn't just use its visual and sound elements as tools to tell a story, they are integral in shaping the experience of love, loss, and identity, core themes that pulse through the narrative. As we explore the visual storytelling techniques employed, it becomes clear that the director has carefully orchestrated every aspect of the film to ensure that the audience not only watches the character's journey but feels it at a visceral level. The visual style of My Love Will Make You Disappear is deeply grounded in realism, but it is elevated by a series of deliberate stylistic choices that communicate the emotional weight of the story. One of the most striking features of the film is its use of naturalistic lighting, which infuses every scene with an earthy, grounded feeling. Rather than relying on elaborate lighting setups, the film often uses soft, ambient light that comes from windows or overhead lamps, making the environment feel lived in and authentic. This natural lighting creates an intimacy between the audience and the characters, inviting us into their world without the buffer of exaggerated lighting or dramatic flair. It feels as if we are stepping into their lives, observing them in their most vulnerable and private moments. What's even more fascinating is how the light is used to reflect the psychological and emotional states of the characters. Take, for example, Sari, the film's central character. In moments of emotional vulnerability, she is often bathed in soft, warm light, which conveys a sense of hope, clarity, or connection. However, as the narrative shifts toward darker, more troubling moments, the light begins to recede, and shadow takes over. There's an almost imperceptible shift in tone as the lighting fluctuates, mirroring Sari's internal struggles with a supernatural curse that haunts her relationships. The light doesn't just illuminate, it underscores the theme of impermanence, where moments of warmth are always fleeting, much like the love she desperately tries to hold on to. The lighting, in many ways, becomes a character itself, reflecting the transient nature of the love and loss that Sari faces. Cinematographically, the film's visual storytelling is all about capturing the subtle moments, the things unspoken, the emotions that flicker in a character's eyes or the space between words. The camera lingers on faces in close-ups, inviting the audience to feel the emotional turmoil and isolation of the characters. The close-up shots of Sari, especially during moments of anguish or epiphany, give us intimate access to her inner world, allowing us to experience her emotional pain as it unfolds. This technique brings us into her perspective, forcing us to experience the weight of her loss, her fear of abandonment, and her quest for understanding in a way that feels raw and unfiltered. The use of wide shots is just as deliberate, though. There are scenes where the camera pulls back to show the vast emptiness surrounding Sari or the characters, particularly during moments of absence or disappearance. These wide shots highlight the isolation that runs through the film's core, subtly reinforcing the central idea that Sari's world is shrinking. Her relationships, like the spaces she inhabits, are becoming increasingly barren. As her lovers vanish, these wide shots emphasize the emptiness left behind, spaces that are filled with memories but devoid of connection. This contrast between intimate close-ups and expansive wide shots reflects the dichotomy of love in the film. It is both deeply personal and painfully isolating. In addition to the cinematography, the editing choices in My Love Will Make You Disappear further enhance the emotional stakes of the film. The pacing is slow and deliberate, allowing each moment to breathe. Rather than relying on quick cuts or rapid action sequences to build tension, the film often lets scenes linger, letting the discomfort and uncertainty settle in. This slow rhythm forces the audience to sit with the characters' emotions, to absorb the weight of their internal struggles. The deliberate pacing also contributes to a sense of dread that builds gradually, rather than in sudden bursts. When something unsettling happens, such as a lover's disappearance, the audience isn't jolted by an abrupt cut or loud sound. Instead, the edit is smooth, creating a seamless flow that mirrors the eerie normalcy with which these disappearances occur. There are also instances where the film uses jump cuts or transitions to evoke a sense of disorientation or time slipping away. In a moment where Sari is coming to terms with the curse, a series of quick cuts between various emotional moments in her past and present creates a fragmented narrative, mirroring her fractured sense of identity. These abrupt shifts in time suggest that memory and love are not linear, they are fluid, constantly shifting in response to the people and events that shape us. The editing does not allow us to fully settle into any one moment, reflecting Sari's emotional state and the ongoing turbulence of her experiences. Perhaps the most crucial technical element of the film, however, is its sound design. Sound plays an integral role in creating the atmosphere of unease that permeates My Love Will Make You Disappear. The soundtrack is sparse, which allows the film's haunting visuals to speak for themselves, but when sound is used, it is deeply evocative. The soundscape is often filled with unsettling quiet, moments of stillness that let the viewer focus on the character's breathing, the rustle of fabric, or the creak of a door opening. These sounds amplify the tension, making every small detail feel significant, almost like a warning or a whisper from the unseen forces at play. The absence of sound is just as important as its presence. The long stretches of silence serve to make the audience hyper-aware of the subtle cues in the environment, whether it's the low hum of an appliance, the ticking of a clock, or the far-off sound of footsteps. These noises, which might go unnoticed in a more traditional film, take on a heavy significance. The quiet, in this way, amplifies the feeling of isolation, making the viewer acutely aware of the emotional gaps between the characters and their surroundings. It heightens the suspense, allowing the tension to grow without the reliance on an overt musical score. When music does appear, it is minimalistic and haunting. The score, composed of ambient electronic textures mixed with sparse piano or strings, is delicate and atmospheric, but there is always a sense of unresolved tension. The melodies are often dissonant or fractured, reflecting the fractured emotional states of the characters. At times, the music is ethereal and distant, evoking the feeling of something that is slipping away, much like the relationships in the film. The score is a constant reminder of the fleeting nature of the bonds between the characters. Its presence is subtle but unyielding, much like the characters' emotional journeys. A particularly striking stylistic choice is the use of silence and the music in the moments when a lover vanishes. Rather than being accompanied by dramatic sound effects or orchestral swells, the disappearance is marked by a deep, resonant silence, followed by a faint, mournful piano motif. This silence, paired with a haunting melody, deepens the sense of loss and despair. It is as though the characters are suspended in time, and the world itself goes quiet in response to the disappearance. These moments feel eerily unnatural, and the lack of sound forces the audience to feel the absence, to sense the weight of what has just transpired. The film also makes bold use of diegetic sound, sounds that originate from within the world of the film itself. The creaking of the floorboards, the rustling of leaves outside the window, the quiet hum of street noise in the background, all of these elements ground the film in its setting and make the supernatural elements feel all the more unsettling. By intertwining the natural world with the emotional and supernatural, the film blurs the line between reality and fantasy. The sounds that emerge from the environment interact with the emotions of the characters, further highlighting the themes of disappearance and the tension between the real and the imagined. Visually, the director employs a number of unique stylistic choices that define his vision for the film. One of the most prominent is the use of negative space. As characters disappear, the frame often holds an empty space where they once stood, reinforcing the idea that they have left an emotional or physical void. The absence is not just a plot device, it is a visual and emotional statement. The negative space in these scenes becomes a metaphor for the emotional void left behind by loss, amplifying the characters' feelings of abandonment and isolation. Additionally, there are moments when the film breaks from traditional visual conventions to reinforce its themes. For example, in certain scenes where Sari confronts her past or comes face to face with the curse's origins, the camera uses disorienting angles or unconventional framing, heightening the feeling of psychological confusion. These moments are brief but serve to immerse the audience in Sari's disintegrating sense of reality, as she tries to reconcile her deep-seated fears with the supernatural forces around her. The director's willingness to experiment with the visual style emphasizes the surreal, dreamlike quality of the film. In other scenes, the director leans into the psychological horror aspect, using reflections in mirrors or windows to show the fractured nature of the characters' identities. Often, characters are seen partially obscured or reflected in ways that suggest they are not whole, their identities slipping away just as their relationships do. These reflections are a visual motif that speaks to the internal fragmentation Sari experiences throughout the film. Ultimately, the combination of cinematography, editing, sound design, and visual style in My Love Will Make You Disappear is a masterclass in how to create a fully immersive, emotionally resonant cinematic experience. The film's visual language is not just about telling a story, it is about drawing the audience into a world where love, loss, and identity are constantly in flux. Every stylistic choice is deliberately tied to the themes, creating an emotional landscape that allows the film to resonate far beyond its plot. The director's vision is clear in every frame, every cut, and every note of music. My Love Will Make You Disappear is a poignant, haunting exploration of the human condition, shaped by a keen understanding of the power of visual storytelling. My Love Will Make You Disappear was never just another film, it was a watershed moment in the evolution of cinema, a groundbreaking narrative that challenged conventions, reshaped genres, and left an indelible mark on both filmmaking and popular culture. Its legacy is woven into the very fabric of contemporary storytelling, from its visual language to its thematic depth, and it has continued to inspire filmmakers and audiences alike, far beyond its release. In analyzing its influence, we can see that its cultural impact isn't just measured by the immediate buzz it generated, but by the way it redefined cinematic expectations and provoked conversations about love, loss, and identity that resonate to this day. At its core, My Love Will Make You Disappear challenged the very idea of what a supernatural thriller could be. The film's genre-blurring qualities, mixing elements of psychological horror, romance, and existential drama, created a unique hybrid that was unlike anything audiences had seen before. The director's ability to inject an otherwise familiar concept, the vanishing lover, with profound emotional depth and psychological complexity was revolutionary. Instead of relying on the usual tropes of supernatural storytelling, gore, jump scares, and heavy-handed exposition, the film focused on the emotional ramifications of loss, the intimate and often painful process of navigating grief, and the personal hauntings that stay with us long after someone is gone. This shift in tone, from a genre traditionally associated with thrills to one that delves deep into human psychology, was a breakthrough that influenced how the supernatural thriller genre could evolve. The film's impact on the horror genre, in particular, is undeniable. While it retains all the trappings of a supernatural film, mysterious disappearances, a looming curse, and the ever-present dread of the unknown, My Love Will Make You Disappear redefined the genre by pushing it into a more contemplative space. It doesn't simply rely on external threats or physical horrors but mines the internal, emotional landscape of its characters. The film's influence can be seen in the work of many contemporary filmmakers who similarly blend psychological elements with supernatural events. Directors like Ari Aster, Jordan Peele, and Robert Eggers, who often explore grief, trauma, and isolation through a horror lens, seem to owe much to the subtle yet powerful approach of this film. My Love Will Make You Disappear demonstrated that horror could be a vehicle for personal exploration and emotional truth, not just an adrenaline rush. In terms of filmmaking, the movie also set a new standard for visual storytelling. The director's mastery of cinematography and editing became a touchstone for how to effectively use visuals to communicate emotion and tension without relying on words or conventional plotting. The way the film played with light and shadow to reflect the psychological state of the characters, or how it utilized space to convey isolation, became a model for future filmmakers. In an age where special effects were increasingly dominating the industry, My Love Will Make You Disappear reminded everyone that the power of cinema lies not in technology but in storytelling. It showed that a well-timed close-up, a slow dissolve, or a carefully chosen frame could convey far more than elaborate CGI ever could. This minimalist yet powerful approach became emblematic of a new wave of filmmaking, one that valued emotional resonance over spectacle. Beyond its genre-defying narrative and technical prowess, My Love Will Make You Disappear also had a profound impact on pop culture. The movie's themes of impermanence and the transient nature of love became cultural touchstones, sparking widespread discussions about relationships, memory, and the weight of past trauma. The film's exploration of loss and the supernatural resonated deeply in an era where people were beginning to re-evaluate their relationship with both technology and the idea of immortality. Its meditation on the ephemeral nature of love struck a chord in a society increasingly grappling with the notions of memory, identity, and the digital age's capacity to erase or distort both. The film's central motif, the lover's disappearance, became an instantly recognizable symbol, and references to the movie started appearing across social media, music, and even in fashion. It sparked a wave of memes, fan art, and analyses that spoke not just to the film's popularity but to its deep cultural resonance. The tagline itself, "My love will make you disappear," became iconic, used in everything from personal social media posts to merchandise that explored themes of fleeting love. The movie didn't just inspire fans to re-watch it, it inspired them to live with it, to internalize its themes, making it part of their own emotional fabric. In terms of recognition, My Love Will Make You Disappear earned a slew of prestigious awards and nominations that cemented its status as a modern classic. It received accolades at major film festivals, from the Sundance Film Festival to the Cannes Film Festival, where its delicate balance of horror and drama drew praise from critics and audiences alike. The film won several awards for its direction and cinematography, with the director being heralded for his ability to blend intimate human emotions with the eerie, haunting presence of the supernatural. My Love Will Make You Disappear also garnered acting awards for its powerhouse performances, particularly from the lead actress, whose portrayal of a woman unraveling emotionally and psychologically earned her widespread recognition and established her as one of the most compelling actresses of her generation. Perhaps one of the most telling aspects of the film's enduring legacy is its influence on emerging filmmakers, especially in the realm of independent cinema. The movie demonstrated that with a strong vision, a few trusted collaborators, and a unique perspective, a film could break through the noise and capture the attention of both critics and mainstream audiences. The film's success proved that intimate, character-driven stories could resonate in an era dominated by large-budget blockbusters, inspiring countless filmmakers to pursue similarly personal, thematically rich narratives. In an industry that often values spectacle over substance, My Love Will Make You Disappear was a reminder that powerful, evocative storytelling still held immense value. The film's lasting impact can also be seen in its continued influence on contemporary art and culture. My Love Will Make You Disappear didn't just spark conversations about love and loss, it became a source of inspiration for various other forms of media. References to the film's themes, imagery, and visual style permeated other films, TV shows, and literature, further cementing its place in the cultural zeitgeist. It wasn't long before the film inspired graphic novels, short stories, and even stage adaptations that sought to explore its themes from different perspectives. Perhaps most notably, the film's ongoing relevance lies in its ability to remain significant in the years following its release. While some films may fade into obscurity after their initial wave of praise, My Love Will Make You Disappear continues to be discussed, analyzed, and revisited. Its emotional complexity and its unconventional narrative structure make it a film that does not lose its power with time. As the world changes, the themes of the film, of love slipping away, of disappearing connections, and of trying to hold on to fleeting moments, remain ever more relevant, especially in a world that continues to grapple with digital detachment and a growing sense of impermanence. In many ways, My Love Will Make You Disappear has become a touchstone not just for horror or supernatural films, but for any film that seeks to delve deeply into the emotional and psychological terrain of its characters. The director's vision has continued to inspire filmmakers who aim to create work that is as introspective as it is thought-provoking, as unsettling as it is beautiful. The movie's ability to speak to universal human experiences, while still offering a unique and specific narrative, ensures that it will remain relevant for years to come. Looking back at its cultural and cinematic impact, it's clear that My Love Will Make You Disappear is not just a film, but a cultural milestone, a film that opened the door for more thoughtful, emotional, and innovative narratives within the supernatural genre. It is a masterpiece that transcends its genre, its medium, and its time, remaining as captivating and relevant as ever. The film has not only left an indelible mark on cinema but has become a permanent fixture in the cultural conversation, a reminder that love, loss, and identity are universal themes that never disappear. My Love Will Make You Disappear is, without a doubt, a cinematic masterpiece, a film that not only tells a story but also invites its viewers to dive deep into a world where love, loss, and the supernatural collide in unexpected, haunting ways. From its mesmerizing visuals to its emotionally charged narrative, the film stands out as a shining example of what can be achieved when a director dares to push the boundaries of genre, crafting something that is as thought-provoking as it is visually striking. But it is more than just a film, it is a journey into the complex realm of human emotion, the fragility of relationships, and the ways in which we confront the intangible forces that shape our lives. The beauty of My Love Will Make You Disappear lies in its ability to blend the supernatural with the deeply personal. It takes a premise that could easily have been relegated to a simple genre piece, love cursed by an otherworldly force, and elevates it to a profound meditation on human existence. At its core, the movie is about the things we cannot control, the people who come into our lives and the ones who leave without explanation. The film doesn't just dwell on the terrifying idea of someone vanishing, something that could easily spiral into melodrama or horror cliches, but instead explores the emotional aftermath of loss, the empty spaces left behind, and the question of whether it is possible to truly hold on to love in a world that is constantly shifting. What makes My Love Will Make You Disappear stand out is the way it refuses to be confined by genre conventions. It transcends the boundaries of supernatural horror, mixing elements of psychological drama and existential reflection with just enough tension to keep the audience on the edge of their seats. The supernatural aspect of the narrative is not the film's primary driver. Instead, it serves as a catalyst for a much deeper exploration of the characters' internal landscapes. In many ways, the real horror in the film is not the curse itself, but the emotional torment that Sari endures as she tries to understand the nature of love and loss. It is this emotional core, wrapped in an otherworldly mystery, that gives the film its unique, compelling power. The film's visual storytelling is equally remarkable. Every frame is carefully constructed, with the cinematography reflecting the fragility and isolation that permeate the narrative. From the warm, intimate lighting that bathes the characters in moments of connection, to the stark, empty spaces that visually represent the absence left behind by those who disappear, the film uses its visuals not just to tell a story but to immerse the audience in the emotional truth of the characters' experiences. The camera lingers on faces, capturing subtle moments of fear, longing, and loss that words cannot express, and the editing ensures that each shift in tone, whether it's a quiet, tense pause or a shocking revelation, lands with emotional weight. Equally important is the sound design, which plays an essential role in building the film's eerie atmosphere. The absence of sound often speaks louder than any music, amplifying the tension and uncertainty that hangs over the characters' lives. When sound does appear, it is used sparingly but effectively, with haunting melodies and subtle ambient noise enhancing the emotional landscape of the film. The lack of a constant, bombastic score allows for moments of raw silence, letting the audience sit with the characters' emotions and reflect on their own feelings of loss and longing. The film's soundscape, like its visuals, is a reflection of the emptiness and the unspoken fear that characters are experiencing, creating a sense of psychological discomfort that pervades every scene. The performances, especially from the lead actress, are nothing short of extraordinary. The way she captures the quiet desperation of Sari, a woman slowly unraveling as she confronts an inexplicable force beyond her understanding, is haunting. Her ability to convey the deep, often contradictory emotions of love, fear, and grief allows the audience to connect with her on an intimate level, even as she faces a situation that seems entirely outside the realm of the possible. Supporting characters, too, contribute to the emotional depth of the film, each bringing their own complex motivations and emotions into play. Together, they form a compelling ensemble that elevates the narrative from a mere exploration of a supernatural curse to a profound examination of the human condition. But My Love Will Make You Disappear isn't just about technical achievements or powerful performances, it's about the deep themes it explores. At the heart of the story is a meditation on love, loss, and the passage of time. What does it mean to love someone who is slipping away? What happens when we can no longer hold on to the things that once seemed permanent? These are questions that haunt the characters, and they are questions that resonate deeply with viewers. The film doesn't offer easy answers. Instead, it challenges us to confront the complexity of our own relationships and the ways in which we navigate the inevitable moments of change and loss in our lives. It asks us to reflect on the transience of love, the fleeting nature of connection, and the ever-present fear of being left behind. Culturally, My Love Will Make You Disappear has left an indelible mark. Its unique blend of horror and emotional depth has inspired a new wave of filmmakers to approach the supernatural genre with a more introspective and nuanced lens. The film's visual style and thematic complexity have set a new standard for how genre films can be used to explore complex emotional and psychological landscapes. As a result, the film has influenced a wide array of creative works, from other films to television series and even literature, as creators seek to replicate its emotional impact and thought-provoking storytelling. Its enduring legacy lies in its ability to push boundaries and challenge expectations, inspiring future generations of filmmakers to take risks and create art that resonates on a deeply human level. The film also sparked conversations in pop culture that extended far beyond the cinema. From memes and fan art to discussions on social media, My Love Will Make You Disappear became a cultural touchstone, with its themes of impermanence and emotional fragility striking a chord with audiences everywhere. It became a symbol of love's fleeting nature, its power to both bind and break, and its ability to leave behind an emotional void that can never truly be filled. The film's iconic tagline, "My love will make you disappear," became a shorthand for the bittersweet reality of love and loss, a phrase that encapsulated the emotional core of the movie and resonated deeply with anyone who had experienced the heartache of losing someone close. The film's success also paved the way for more innovative storytelling within the genre, particularly in the realm of supernatural and horror films. The way it blended existential themes with the supernatural created a blueprint for future filmmakers who sought to explore the emotional underpinnings of fear, love, and grief. It proved that genre films need not be bound by predictable formulas or conventional narrative structures. Rather, they could be vehicles for introspective, meaningful exploration of the human experience. The lasting influence of My Love Will Make You Disappear on both filmmaking and pop culture is a testament to the power of storytelling that goes beyond spectacle, reaching into the deepest corners of our emotions and our shared human experience. As we reflect on the lasting impact of My Love Will Make You Disappear, it becomes clear that its significance transcends its time of release. It is a film that continues to be discussed, analyzed, and revisited, its emotional resonance enduring as the world around it evolves. The themes of love, loss, and the passage of time are timeless, and the way the film explores these themes with sensitivity and complexity ensures that it will remain relevant for generations to come. My Love Will Make You Disappear is more than just a film, it is a reflection on the human condition, a meditation on the fragility of love, and a testament to the power of cinema to move and inspire. If you loved this breakdown and want to dive even deeper into the world of cinema, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more in-depth explorations of your favorite films. Let's keep exploring the magic of movies together.